Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to Stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned for my weekly reading report. It's time for my weekly reading report, where I talk about all the stuff that I read the previous week. So let's do that. Let's talk about the stuff I read last week. I read a couple of things last week. My life has been busy as usual, but I read some things, so let's break out my list for the 500 book challenge. The challenge where I have to read 500 books before I'll buy any new ones. Just keeps going on. And for book 239 of the challenge was Immortal by Roger Zelazny. This Immortal by Roger Zelazny, which won the Hugo Award along with Dune. I forget which year this book came out. Let me see if it says. Copyright 1966. It was originally titled Call Me Conrad, but was retitled This Immortal. I kind of think it should have stayed Call Me Conrad, because that title, it makes more sense for the book itself, but I guess it wasn't as cool. It wasn't as cool as This Immortal. So this is a science fiction, almost fantasy novel written by Roger Zelazny. I really like Roger Zelazny. I don't know that I've read anything from him yet that I don't like. And this is one of the best books from him that I've read. It was great. I'm a little surprised, though, that it won the Hugo Award. And that it tied places with Dune. That's interesting to me. There are a lot of great ideas in this book, but this is probably the only Edgar Rice Burroughs novel ever that won for the Hugo Award. It's an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel that was written by Roger Zelazny, but so of course I loved it, but when it comes to the actual plot of the thing, it's an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel. It's Tarzan. It's a Tarzan novel, basically, as far as what actually happens with the characters and the story. But let's talk about that. So of course it doesn't start off that way, and there's actually a really interesting background to this story. So Earth has suffered a nuclear war and is devastated, and it's overrun with mutant monsters and mutant people and hot spots that you can't go to because there's too much radiation and danger. And so you have what's left of Earth civilization kind of existing on the borders of that. And there's some parts of the Earth that didn't get hit quite as hard. But you still have to worry about some other things, like the after effects of the nuclear war. Environmental devastation, earthquakes, that kind of stuff. And you have some survivors. But most of humanity, most of the people on Earth have left the planet Earth and have immigrated to outer space, where they have encountered an alien race, an advanced culture, an older and more advanced culture than human beings. And so out in space, human beings have kind of become second-class citizens to this alien culture. And the aliens have bought up some property on Earth. But our main character, Conrad, who happens to be immortal, which is a very popular thing in Edgar Rice Burroughs, Conrad happens to be immortal, and he's an immortal Greek. And he's been working to try to get human beings back to the planet Earth, and that didn't really work out because nobody wants to come back, because why would they? It's a wreck. But he's very concerned about the survival of his planet, and he's worried that the aliens are just going to take over. They've already bought some real estate, but he's worried that they're basically just going to take over the planet, and humanity will live out its existence as a bunch of second-class citizens to this alien race. And so you have all of that very science fiction background to this story. But the real story is about one of these aliens who wants to take a tour of different locations on Earth. And our hero, Conrad, the Immortal, is going to be his tour guide. And there are other people that go along on the tour, including an assassin who is out to get the tour guide, apparently. But Conrad gave his word that he would, protect this guy while he's out on his tour at very dangerous locations because it's Earth and it's full of irradiated monsters. So Conrad has to fight off this assassin if this assassin actually tries to kill this alien, but they've got a history together, and it's a whole thing. There's a lot of great characters in this book. The characters are awesome. The main character is great. It's beautifully written. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this book. So it was a great read, but it's basically an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel as far as the things that happen in the book. And I've noticed this more and more going along in this story, and I started to wonder if this was deliberate, or if some of the things that are in this novel are just so, have just become such tropes that it wasn't really deliberate. But a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff happened in this book. You have our heroes who are kidnapped by a tribe of cannibals, and this really happens. And there's a big monster guy that they have to, one of the people have to fight in order to get away, because okay, if you beat our champion, then we'll let you go. Which, they all know they're lying, but because this is Zelazny. But, this is, of course, straight out of Edgar Rice Burroughs. He does flip it, though, in that it ends up being the assassin who fights the big monster instead of our hero Conrad. And so that happens, and it's awesome, and then they have to escape from the cannibals, and there's a big fight. And there's another part where they are captured again, and they're actually tied up to stakes. Well, they're columns, actually. But basically, they're tied up to stakes. And out in the distance, Tarzan hears Tantor, the elephant. And he knows, hey, I just have to bide my time, and then Tantor will come and rescue me. Only it's not Tarzan, and it's not Tantor. It's another animal friend. It's Conrad and his animal friend that he hears off in the distance. And he just has to bide his time, and his animal friend will come and rescue him. And it's a different big animal friend than one of Tarzan's animal friends. But how many times does that happen in a Tarzan novel? Where Tarzan, oh, it's my animal friend. I just have to bide my time and they'll get here and save me. It happens all the time. It was, at times it got kind of funny. But it's tremendous fun, like I said. It's Roger Zelazny, This Immortal, an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel written by Roger Zelazny, which has a bunch of cool science fiction stuff in it as well. It's great. It's a lot of fun. So I tremendously enjoyed this. I think on Goodreads I gave it 5 stars, Roger, which is, star ratings I'm terrible at. Everything's pretty much 4 or 5 stars if I like it. And this was great fun. So This Immortal by Roger Zelazny. I'll shut up about that one now. What else did I read? Because I did read other things. Book number 240. Book number 240 on the challenge. I finally finished this big monster. This is the Silver Age Justice League Omnibus, which mostly has stories by Gardner Fox, but at the very end, the last section, you get some stories by Denny O'Neil, who came in and took over for Gardner Fox. And I don't know if Gardner Fox left voluntarily or not, or whether they just decided, hey, we need somebody new to come in and start writing stories. Let's get Denny O'Neil, a person who was kind of unsuited for the Justice League. But, he did a decent enough job. And we also had a change in artists who came in here. A lot of people worked on these issues. But Mike Sikowski left and Dick Dillon came in. And Dick Dillon did a bunch of Justice League stories after that. I think he did like 80 stories, basically in what became the Bronze Age. But it was great. I had a great time reading these stories. There's the Red Tornado. The Red Tornado shows up, which is DC Comics' version of the Vision, basically. It's great. This is a lot of issues. How many of these were there? There were 76 issues of Justice League of America that I read. This also has an issue of Mystery in Space. It was awesome. It was great fun. I had to keep picking it up and putting it down, though, because of other things. And so I read a lot of these this past week, which kept me from reading some other stuff that I wanted to read, but that's always the way. I wanted to finally finish this, and I did, and it was awesome. I highly recommend the Silver Age Justice League. If you like Silver Age superhero comics, it's kind of a must-read, I guess. So I read that. What am I reading right now, Roger? Right now, I'm reading this book. I got a jump on Horror Mayhem. We are almost there, a couple days away, and the mayhem begins. But I thought, I don't want to wait. I've got so much Horror Mayhem stuff to read. I'm just going to start right now. And I started with the Year's Best Horror Stories Series 5, which has stories from 1975, 1976 in here. And they're great. This has some great stories in it. I'll talk more about this when I finish it. I've still got a little ways to go there. I've got to think like 3 more stories in here. Yeah, but it's got some great stuff. It has... I just read a story from David Drake called The Children of the Forest that was really good. Harlan Ellison's story Shatterday is in here, which was really good. Husdra from Kenneth Lee. Robert Bloch's in here. H. Warner Munn had a story called The Well, which was really, really good. That was in here as well. This is full of cool stuff. So, yeah, a great beginning to Horror Mayhem, which hasn't really happened yet. But yeah, this is fun. And I have to check if I have any more of these old DAW Year's Best Horror Stories. I think I do, but I think they're kind of away in the vault and will take some actual effort to look for. So if I have time to look for them, I will. And I'll probably find other stuff instead that I'll drag out, but we'll see. But this was fun. This was fun, or this is fun. I'm not quite done with it yet. So I will talk more about that next week. And that will be book 241, probably. And what will I read after that? Could be this one. This is the first issue of Weird Tales for Roger's Cheap Old Book Club, which will fit right in with Horror Mayhem. Amazing how that worked out, Roger. And it features ooze. It features ooze. Ooze. So that's going to be, how awesome is that? And then I'll probably read the second issue of Weird Tales. After that, might follow it up with the third issue of Weird Tales, which I might follow up with the fourth issue of Weird Tales. We don't know. I've got the first few issues of Weird Tales as these paperback reproductions. I've got all of the issues of Weird Tales that were ever produced, I think, electronically. So I might just continue to read Weird Tales. Who knows? Who knows? If I have time, I will. I'm also reading a couple other things. Almost done with the Fantastic Four John Byrne Omnibus. I am reading every issue of the Fantastic Four from the first run of the Fantastic Four. Most of them up to now I've read either as Epic Collections or Marvel Masterworks. But at the point I'm at now in the series, it looks like John Byrne is pretty much doing everything. I'll have to double check, but I think he's doing, like he did the last annual that's in here. So I'm almost done with this. I've got like one more issue in here. Which one is that? Oh yeah, 3 Against Doomsday. There's either 1 or 2 issues left in here. 3 Against Doomsday. I think I've got 2 more issues to go in here. So Dr. Doom, causing more trouble, trying to destroy the Fantastic Four. I suspect he will not succeed. We'll see. So there is a second Fantastic Four John Byrne omnibus that I'll read after this. So I'm about halfway through John Byrne's run on the Fantastic Four. It's been awesome. I also started reading Vanney the Vampire. So I'm on what in this edition of Vanney the Vampire is part 3. So Vanney the Vampire, when last we left Vanney the Vampire, his wedding was interrupted. He was impersonating a count or something. I can't remember. It's been a few weeks. Anyway, he was impersonating somebody. He's incredibly rich now because he stole a bunch of money from the Bannerworth family. He got away with that, but he did not get away with marrying this woman under false pretenses. So his domestic bliss has been destroyed. Everybody tried to rush on to Vanney and kill him. Everybody's trying to kill Vanney. Vanney gets away. And now we're in part 3, where Vanney is apparently impersonating somebody else. He's always in disguise at this point. So he's impersonating a different rich person. He still has a ton of money that he stole from the Bannerworth family. And now he's insinuated himself into this boarding house. There's this widow landlady who has a bunch of daughters who will probably become Vanney's victims, or at least maybe that would happen if this was a story where we had a vampire who actually sucks people's blood. I hope that starts up again. It's been a while since Vanney has done any actual vampire type things. It's been hundreds and hundreds of pages since that's happened. But I still have that much of Vanney. Vanney, the book that just goes on forever, just like the immortal Vanney himself. So yes, Vanney the Vampire continues. I have nothing horrific to report, just Vanney in disguise. But I just started part 3, so maybe some exciting things will happen. And if they do, I will let you know. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. So yeah, that was it. We ended up on the challenge at 240, which means I have 10 more books, and then I will be halfway through the challenge. Oh my goodness. This has gone on a long time, Roger. So that was that. Hopefully I'll have a chance to make more videos this week. We've got tomorrow, I'm hoping to get up another random book show. Roger's random book show will come up tomorrow, I hope. Then we have Epic Comic Book Wednesday. I have a Robert E. Howard show I want to do. So, you know, there's stuff I want to do. It just depends on whether I'll actually be able to do it. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.